There we go. Let's make myself full screen just to disgrace your screens. Yeah, let's start with the tweet from Sunderland. I don't know if you've seen that there. See if I can put it there. Rounding off 2025 with 28 points from our opening 18 Premier League games. Won 7, drew 7, lost 4. Okay, maybe it's going to be 1-7, drew 7, lost 5 right at the time tomorrow night comes, but against Man City. But still, hello to everyone who is joining me for. I'll probably just go for live for about half an hour, 40 minutes, depending on how many people actually watch this stream. And my phone just keeps pinging off like crazy. Just bear me. Well, one of my many phones. Hang on a minute. Nah, honestly, right? Yeah, 2025. What a hell of a year it's been for Sunderland. I bet if as you were going into the Stadium of Light against Sheffield United on New Year's Day in 2025, if someone told you then what Sunderland were going to end up doing for this entire year, then you'd be thinking, wow, okay. How much crack cocaine have you had? How much marijuana have you smoked, and why want some of it? Quite frankly, it's been astonishing what we've gone on to achieve this year. And look, obviously, don't get me wrong, I've always been quite consistent in the fact that I think Sunderland are a club that should be competitive in the Premier League. And when I say competitive, I mean pretty much what we're doing now, not just scraping fourth bottom every year and just accepting that and just making out like that's the be all and end all. Because obviously, staying in the Premier League is massive, but it shouldn't just be the absolute. It shouldn't be the end game just for Sunderland. We should be aiming to try to get into the European places longer term, in my opinion. Not for this season necessarily, but longer term. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be aiming for it. But we'll get some. Well, obviously there's no comments as of yet, but get some comments into the chat, guys, and then we will go from there, and then we can read some and just see what you think. I've got a question right at the very start for everyone who is watching. What are your 5 favourite games of 2025? Because it's been a pretty mental year. We've got so many good options to choose from, which is staggering, really, when you really stop and think about it. I think I've already got 4 of my top 5 already sorted. Um, but actually, no, screw it. I think I've got 5. Yeah, I think I probably have got 5 in terms of my mood after the game, in terms of everything. And by the way, you can judge this criteria however you want. It could be best game from an entertainment perspective. It could be what meant the most to you. It could be what made you the most emotional. Any criteria you want. It doesn't matter. I just thought I would ask the question at the start. 5 favorite games of 2025, and it doesn't have to be in any particular order. I'm going to do mine in order, I think. I say I will, but then watch me be a hypocrite and not bother later on. But I figured that anyone can just do it on whatever order they want, and so we shall crack on with it. So I think if I was to get into my top 5 favorite games, I'm just trying to quickly work them out in order in terms of what each day meant. So I've got first. Oh, this is tricky actually. I'm just trying to think how am I going to do this. I think I've got fifth sorted. I think I've got fourth sorted. Yeah, I think I've got the third, second. Yeah, I think I've probably just about got it. Yeah, I think I've got it. So I'll go with top 5. So I'll go fifth to first. Fifth to first. And yeah, and obviously this is just based on my own individual experiences of each game and what each one meant to me personally, coming out of the ground or finishing watching it, and so on and so forth. Gary Pennington, nice to see you, my friend. Cov away, Cov home, Arsenal, Chelsea. Fair enough then. When you say Coventry, I'm assuming you don't mean the 3-0 battering in the Championship, but I know you don't. I know you mean the playoffs. I was at the 3-0, funnily enough, and it was the day before the Mags won the Cup. Well, I've had better weekends, safe to say. Right, fifth for me would be Arsenal. Now, this is the one home game this year that I didn't make. I wasn't at. And the reason for that is because it was on November the 9th or 10th or whatever it was. Yep, Gary, I thought you meant playoffs. Yep, thought you did. No, for me, also because my aunt and 2 cousins, my uncle died last year, who was a big Sunderland fan and was a big reason I've come into supporting Sunderland. My auntie and my 2 cousins live in Manchester, and my 2 cousins, one has their birthday on the 7th of November and one has them on the 10th, which was around the weekend of the Arsenal game. So it meant that I pretty much was, well, didn't have to really, but obviously I wanted to go and spend time with them. So, I went down and I insisted on finding a pub to watch the game, effectively, even though I was watching it on my own. But I was able to watch it. So obviously I missed it. One of my close mates went instead of me. But I think, what can you say about it? I think the only reason it's fifth is because I literally wasn't there. Hey, there you go. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Kimberly. There we go. Hey, and nice to see that you've joined. So yes, Hello there. Go full Star Wars again, but I'll not bore people too much with that. No, fifth was Arsenal. I think the result was absolutely fantastic, drawing 2-2 against easily one of the top two best teams in the league. Man City being probably the other one. Spoiler: Man City away is not on this list. Hopefully, Man City at home is in the end of the 2026 year top five games, but we shall see. But no, what I was going to mention was I think because I was in a pub in Manchester in Sale, to be specific, actually watching it. That's probably what kind of slightly dampens the experience for me, in the fact that I wasn't there, and obviously for good reason. I was glad to see my family, but yeah, I think I'll probably put it fifth. But I think the result afterwards left me very giddy and thinking, you know what, we've actually at the time Arsenal were the runaway leaders and the runaway best team in the division. So, and I think that gave me quite a lot of encouragement for the rest of the season. So, and I think the scenes at the end, for anyone who was there, please tell me, Broby's equaliser. I mean, the scenes at the end, it looked absolutely magical. And I've watched the clips of that goal back countless times. So it's been, that was a really good result. And that'd be number five. Number four would be the Coventry playoff semi-final second leg. Now, the game itself, for probably 120 minutes, was pretty. It wasn't very good at all. I still to this day don't believe Sunderland completely got the balance right between sitting on the lead that you had, but also trying to go forward, because I felt we did too much of the former. But I do take into account it's easier said than done to get the balance right. And Coventry aren't a bad side. I mean, look what they're doing in the Championship this season. But even last season, with the form under Lampard since he took charge, to them getting into the playoffs, they were good side, Coventry. They are a good side, and now I really didn't want to play them over two legs. But at some point, you had to beat them and had to end that stupid hoodoo they had over us. So, from Matt SB, good mate of mine, he wouldn't have liked that. But from my point of view, it was as good a time as ever to end the duck against Coventry. For most of the game, it was tense. It was torturous. And then obviously they scored. It's level aggregate, and then going in extra time. And then Sunderland actually started to come into their own in extra time a bit, and the extra fresh legs probably ended up paying dividends, really. Because obviously, remember, Coventry had to play game after game after game after game to play their first team and get themselves into fifth place, basically. Whereas Sunderland had the luxury of being able to rotate and rest. And I think that's what made the difference in the end. But of course, we have to talk about that moment. Ballard. I mean, what a moment. And it's arguably, for some people, the best moment the Stadium of Light's ever seen. Is it for me? Probably. It's definitely right up there. I'm hesitant to try and go full in and say yes, because it's in the Championship rather than the Premier League. But if it had been a Carabao Cup semi-final second leg, for example, then I think it would have been easily the best moment I'd witnessed. But it's one of the best moments by some way that Stadium of Light will have ever seen, just because of the sheer magnitude of the moment, the game that was played in, what it meant, how important it was, and the fact that if that corner kick from Lafay and Ballard's header, if that doesn't go in, it's a penalty shootout, and we know what our record at penalties was like last season. So, but that moment was just sheer relief and euphoria of getting through. And I get goosebumps watching the limbs back every single time. A particular video, I think, is it Fusion Josh? I think it's Fusion Josh. It was at the game, but he was in the Premier Concourse. But if you watch his view there, the Sunderland fans, or the limbs everywhere, just going completely ape nonsense. Let's put it that way. So it was just some special scenes, and that's going to be unlikely, and it's very hard to top that, I think. But yeah, so I think just because obviously the three games I think meant more to me. And this is mental that this is probably arguably one of the best moments the Stadium Light's ever seen, and it's fourth in my list. But yes, so we shall crack on nevertheless with that. Third would be West Ham at home. Opening day of the season. I mean, what the hell can you say about this? I think West Ham. I mean, I'm even just getting reminiscent thinking about it. I think obviously, look, West Ham throughout pretty much the majority of the first half, I'd say, bar one or two moments, had the better of it. And obviously when West Ham, and it's mental to think that now, given where West Ham are in the league, but at the time, first game of the season, we didn't know how it was going to pan out. And we didn't know how we were going to adapt to the Prem. After being told all summer we had no chance and we were going to go straight back down. I think a lot of people didn't quite recognise the quality of the players we'd signed. And look, I know a number of them are away at AFCON currently and stuff like that, but we knew that was going to happen. But the point I'm getting at is we've signed players that probably the best caliber players that a promoted club could sign in recent years, maybe even the last couple of decades, to be honest. And I can't quite believe how perfectly that opening day went, because at halftime 0-0, I was thinking get something on the board straight away, because obviously at that point I didn't know we were going to do as well as we had done. And at that point, I was thinking, just keep getting every single point we can. And I still stand by 40 points is the immediate aim. So we need another dozen points, but we've got a lot of margin for error when it comes to that. But I would say personally that when the moment my enders scored against West Ham, and I tweeted that to the club, and they haven't retweeted it at the time of, at least I don't think they have at the time of me recording this. So I might have a check in a minute to see whether they have done or not. But having said that, I do think it was really special when my Ender's goal hit the back of the net and we went 1-0 up, and we went 1-0 up in our first game back in the Premier League. Bearing in mind, after such a long time away from it, 8 years, which by the way is absolutely shocking for a club of our size, to be honest. But saying all of that, I think it was just absolutely magical stuff. And by the way, actually, I've just realised Sunderland AFC's put sit back and enjoy all 47 league goals scored in 2025. I hope they include the playoff games in this, but I suspect they might not. But point is, when my underscored the noise level, and it was something else. And I remember one of the national reporters at the game was saying that when Sunderland scored and opened the score and went 1-0 up, the noise level was so loud that they couldn't hear. They genuinely couldn't hear what was going, that their instructions on the radio to go elsewhere for a broadcast. And that says about how that's one of the reasons I've said this club has got gargantuan potential. And I'm talking in potential of competing for trophies. I don't mean Premier League or Champions League or anything like that, but like going for the Cups, Europa Conference League, stuff like that. There is absolutely no reason why a club of this magnitude and of this size should not be competing on those fronts. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, but for me, it says everything. I think that this club's just got such potential. And then when Ballard scored, I think that was when it really hit me. I was like, oh crap, we might actually win this game. Because even at 1-0, I was going, nah, I'll still probably take a point, because you know how mental the Premier League is in terms of quality. You switch off for 1 second, and like that, you get punished. So when Ballard went 2-0 up, I think I was kind of in dreamland. And by the time Wilson Isidore scored, it just capped off a perfect day, pretty much. The day beforehand, meeting me mates up before the game, going back into town after the game and how buzzing everyone was. It just encapsulated all of the frustrations, all of the negativity over the last 8 years, and of being back where we actually belong, and just unleashed it all in one day, and it was mental. So, and I think it couldn't have gone much better, to be honest. Winning 3-0 on the opening day and everything else was just, I can't stress highly enough how much I enjoyed that day. Really, really did. So look, those are his comments, and yeah, I'll go through the comments more. Let's go through some of the comments now before I get onto the top two. Let's have a look. So I think it was Oliver. Cov away, Cov home, Sheffield United, Mags, West Ham, no particular order, fair enough. Bill Walby says Newcastle, Cov home, Arsenal, Chelsea, Sheffield United. Ghost Rider 247, I love that name. Michael, I've never been as proud as I am of this team and what it has become. Never in a million years I'd have predicted this season. I love Sunderland AFC with a passion. Everyone at Sunderland, including the backroom staff, should be so proud of what they've done at the club. All them years in the lower leagues, and now look at us. Am I dreaming? Now, I suspect this is DJ, this is Dave Watson, who's come with me and Sean to a few away games before. Cov home, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, the great unwashed. I love that. Absolutely love that. Bill Walby again. Lovely to see you again, mate. Concur with Ghost Rider's comments. I'm one who remembers Gillingham and Cascarino, Chester in the rain, and all that stuff. This is utopia. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I wasn't there, thankfully, but I remember when Parky went to Gillingham and set up for a point, which is shocking when you think about it, really. And yeah, just for that to just to go from that to this is something else. In what was it, 6 years or something as well. I will say we need a striker. Never replaced Stuart since we get that. I'll tell you now, the goals will pour in. See, I think that the strikers we've got, if we gave them better service, could actually do all right. You got to remember, you can say never replaced since Stuart left, but remember, Stuart was injured and was crooked for, apart from the League One promotion season, he was crooked for most of it, unfortunately. So, but that's absolutely fair enough. We are screaming for an out-and-out striker. Hey, we've got 3. What more do you want? I do think my end will go out on loan, actually, to be fair. Wouldn't be against it. Cheers, Bill. Oliver says 5th, Chelsea. 4th, Bags. 3, West Ham. 2, Sheffield United. 1, Coventry at home. Yeah, I suppose I was going to put. I suppose I was going to. I suppose I was going to put games that I probably should have put Chelsea ahead of Arsenal, shouldn't I? Really, but screw it. I'm sticking with the list now. Can't be bothered to change it. Meowdy, I love that, Jimmy. Looks like your best mate Dan Neil might go out in January, so I'm sure you'll be delighted about that. DJ, not me, Michael. Never met Sean or yourself yet. Love it. Right, number 2. So for those who've caught up, I'm going through my top 5 games of 2025. And I put 5th. I put Arsenal at home. You could have put Chelsea in there, I think, but because of the standard Arsenal were, I think that was just something else coming out of the pub watching it. 4th was Coventry at home in the playoff semi-finals. Obviously, need I say more? It explains itself. 3 was West Ham. Perfect day. First game back in the Prem after 8 years. And just to see the scenes before and after the game and the scenes at full time in particular was just something else. And I'm someone who thinks that if the weather's really sunny as well, this might sound really stupid, but if the weather's really sunny and we win, it makes it even more special for me. But yeah, there was that one. Right, number 2, the Championship playoff final. Sheffield United at Wembley. I think it's just... That was the game I think I was most nervous for out of... Well, actually saying that, I was most nervous for probably Coventry's second leg. Because I had the belief if we got past Coventry, we'd go up. Because I stand by a lot of what I've said about Sheffield United last season. I felt like a lot of their performances were heavily masked by their results, and they were not indicative of their actual performances. And by the way, for context, excluding the Sunderland games, I think I watched them probably about 14 times. I watched them well over a dozen times over the course of the season. And I felt nearly every single time, apart from when they beat Coventry 3-1 at Bramall Lane, they were quite fortunate to win a lot of them. And I think that some people have said that about Sunderland this season, but the difference is Sunderland are up against teams with much more money, better resources in many cases, have been established Premier League sides, whereas Sheffield United were effectively were underdogs going into a lot of games, whereas Sheffield United should have been the favourites in a majority of games where they were up against, quote-unquote, inferior sides, a parachute payment team against non-parachute payment teams, regularly just grinded out games constantly. And this is why I don't rate Chris Wilder particularly highly as a manager. He's good for Sheffield United, I suppose, but everywhere else, he has had a... Everywhere else, he's struggled pretty much in recent times. I know obviously he got promoted with Oxford years and years ago, but like in recent times, he's really, really struggled. And I think, yeah. So the point I'm getting at anyway is, I think that this was our chance to go up, and I stand by to this day. I do not think we would have got promoted had Leeds or Burnley been our opponent in the playoff final. Only because I think Leeds would have proved to have been too good, and I think Burnley's defensive record, they would have been stubbornly hard to break down, and I think it would have been a horrible game to try and play against, in a good way from Burnley's perspective, but from our perspective, obviously, I mean, I know we took 4 points off them, but then we also missed 2 penalties at the very end of Turf Moor game, didn't I? I really hope we beat Burnley next month. Well, start of February actually, but it will be next month in a day's or so time. But yeah, the point is, and we went 1-0 down, I was fuming at the goal. I mean, it was a good counter-attacking goal from Sheffield United's perspective, but from my perspective, it was a really poor goal to give away. Obviously, we went 1-0 down, and then obviously when we went 2-0 down, or we thought we'd went 2-0 down, you thought, oh, this is game over, we're not coming back from this, are we? Unless something magical happens, we are not coming back from this. All 3 people have stopped watching, what's the matter with you? But no, I was going to say, I think, obviously, when Burrow's goal hit the back of the net, I was really gutted because I thought we'd missed our opportunity. But then, of course, VAR saved our skin and obviously disallowed the goal, which I thought that's a reprieve. Let's hope that we can actually, respond from it. And then, even then, I disagree with this narrative around the game that Sheffield United dominated the opening 70 minutes. Completely disagree. They did the opening 20-30, but afterwards, I thought they did next to nothing apart from the Andre Brooks chance where Patterson had to save it. Other than that, they did nothing. Since the Bills disallowed goal, bar that chance, they were passive for the rest of the game. They did absolutely nothing. So, from my own point of view, I felt Sunderland from the 30-minute mark onwards were the better side. And I think, obviously, the changes that were made in the playoff final, getting the likes of Isidore on the pitch, getting the likes of, who was it? Patrick Roberts on the pitch. It was just getting all of these... it was just, for me, about the fact that we made the changes. And then since then, the last 20 minutes or half an hour, I thought we dominated, actually. I really thought we did. And obviously, when Mayenda's goal went in, I actually shouted from the upper concourse going, these are effing crap. If you put them under pressure, get at them, you will beat them. And I felt, and then obviously the moment that Tommy Watson's goal hits the back of the net is just wow. And obviously Jam Sonny or Joel was in the row behind me, and I kind of went from, oh my god, get in, we've actually scored. Wait, we're 5 minutes away from the Premier League. Oh no, don't lose this lead, Sunderland. I went through all of that in the space of about 10 seconds. And I had to go into the concourse because I knew there was a bit of stoppages at the start of added time. And I just couldn't bear watching it. I had to go into the concourse to walk around for a minute or two to calm myself down. And for me, I just think it's and then when I came back out, I just was standing with someone else who'd watched me videos, and I was just celebrating with them at full time. And it was just and I said at the time, without knowing how we were going to do in the Premier League, that was a game changer as far as Sunderland was concerned. In terms of, even if you went up and came straight back down, you come down loaded with parachute payments, and that is huge and hugely transformational for the club. I don't even know if transformational is a word, but if it's not, I've invented one. There you go. But yeah, for me, Sheffield United coming out of it was just insane stuff. And coming out of it, you could see how buzzing everyone was. And the good thing about it, even though I didn't actually do much on the Saturday night, funnily enough, me and a couple of me mates just went for something to eat and then just went back to the hotel, Premier Inn hotel bar, and just had drinks in there pretty much. Mine was Diet Coke pretty much constantly because I don't drink alcohol. And I regretted it because I barely got any sleep. But I was too excited. I was thinking, well, no, come on. With all due respect, I've watched us, play for a point at Gillingham, lose to Lincoln in the playoffs, I remember being at Wembley when Charlton scored the last minute winner against us in the League One playoff final in 2019. I was going to soak it in and enjoy it. So, but yeah, it was insane stuff. And the best thing about it was I went down for a weekend. That was what made it even better. And actually, I'll tell you this now, guys. I'm going down next week in London for a couple of nights with me mate Paul, who you've seen in a few videos in my intros. We're going to Brentford. So that should be pretty good. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. Before I get on to number one, let's quickly go for some more of the comments. Mags has to be top, Michael. Wait and see. Wait and see. That's all I'll say. Kevin says, oh, for God's sake. There we go. Great show, Michael. Please do more. Keep the faith. Love it, mate. Thanks very much for watching. And Ghost Rider the same. Apparently, you both, at least these two people, if you seem to like this, so that's really good. Jimmy Paddy says, we need fewer bad characters in the club. Neil is one of them. Completely disagree, mate. I think you've got an agenda against Neil personally, but I completely disagreed. I think if you spoke to Reggie Labrice, he would defend Neil's character a lot. If you're a young centre midfielder and yet the chance to learn one of the greatest men in football, Jackie, you don't use it as bad character. Mate, no offense, but if you think he's not good enough, then why the hell should he get into the team then? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a bit ridiculous, if I'm honest. By the way, you're entitled to your opinion, but obviously I'm entitled to disagree with it. Hume Sirkin against Leeds showed they are not at the level. Sirkin far too early to judge, only one game. Hume, disagree. I think he's been quite good this season. Malcolm Ian, yeah, caught you alive at last. I love that. Love you, Mr. Sensible Bowers. Nice one. Love it, mate. Kimmy says, sorry, I'm back. What have I missed? Go back and watch the whole thing again, Kim. That's all I'll say. Oliver says, I just sat in my hotel and stared at the wall in Wembley after Wembley in disbelief. I don't blame you. Don't blame you in the slightest, my friend. It was just insane stuff. I couldn't believe it. I was probably in shock for quite a bit myself and just going, how has that happened? Like, and I stand by that the gap between Sheffield United and Sunderland on the pitch actually wasn't that big. I know that you can say 14 points and everything else, but what people don't realise is that Sunderland sacked off the last 6 games, whereas Sheffield United were having to get top 2 and pushing for it until the second to last game. That's just something else, really. Like, that in itself is part of the context that a lot of people conveniently miss when they talk about the 14-point gap. And I know what you can say, we only finished 7 points ahead of Coventry, but again, same principle. We sacked off the last 6 games, where if we hadn't have done that, I believe that we would have finished way ahead of Coventry, points-wise. So I think that the table's misleading because of those last 6 games. And I know we drew at Norwich, but again, look at the team we started that night. So, I think it's a fair point to make. But yeah, I just couldn't believe what had happened. So I stand by that. I think Sheffield United, and the gap between Sheffield United and Sunderland wasn't as big as what the points gap made it out to be. Magical moments, lad. Absolutely. Barry Jones says, the whole club should be proud as to who we are now and the massive strides we have took. One issue they have to sort out is the issues with the ticket office. Sirkin is not up to the Premiership. Like I said to Jimmy, actually, and by the way, Jimmy, if you're still watching, not going to have a go. I don't want to have a go at you too much because you're entitled to your opinion. I just really disagree with you on Dan Neil. I think that he's someone who I can agree. Maybe Dan Neil probably isn't up to the Premier League because I think by now he would have been selected more. But I think to say he's a bad character, in my opinion, is quite disingenuous. But that's just me. That is just me. And I think for me, Daniel, I think will leave in January. But I just don't think I don't get this idea that he's a bad footballer. I really don't. But there you go. It's just my opinion. That's fair enough. Second of them games was genius, says Oliver. He did well to stick to the plan because there was a lot of criticism. That's what I mean. We'll have to wait and that's what I mean. I always said, let's wait and see. Because what happens if we went full throttle in those games and a Lafay or a Job or a Isidore or a Mayenda got injured? Then everyone would be going, you know what? And then you just go, you know what? That's just how it is. Thankfully, it worked. Where would you rate Reggie as a manager, says Ian, and compared to all the past 20 years? Probably the best. Certainly the best that since I've got into football anyway. Everyone else who's in the comments when he was watching Sunderland when the Peter Reid era was there, they're probably better placed to comment than me. How does Reggie compare to Peter Reid? Because I know the style of football is probably two completely different things, and they're in two completely different eras of the Premier League. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, actually. What do people think? Where do you all rate Reggie Librees? Knowing me, knowing you, still love that name. I might go, we've lost 4 home games in 2025, and 3 of those were in the last 6 games of last season. Impressive. Absolutely. Kevin says, not bad character on Daniel, just not good enough, sadly. I agree with that. Jimmy, there you go. We can disagree on these things agreeably. I agree to disagree with you agreeably on these things. Yeah, I'm just trying to talk nonsense as usual. But there you go. No, that's fair enough, Jimmy. That's fair enough. I agree. I've been a fan for 55 years. Well, this is the point, right? So for those of you who watch Peter Reid versus Reggie Librees, take into account the context of different eras of the Premier League and different styles of football, I'd imagine, because I wasn't into football then, so I didn't watch Peter Reid's football. Where do they compare? Who's done a better job? Because I mean, both have done great jobs generally for Sunderland. But I mean, like, which one of them do you think's done the better of the two jobs, even with all the context added? Right, and of course, number one of all. So just to recap, some of your top 5 games of 2025. Number 5 was Arsenal at home. Number 4 was the Coventry playoff semi-final second leg. Number 3 was West Ham at home on the opening day. Number 2 was the Championship playoff final. And you can all probably guess it. As Ghost Rider has said, number 1 is the Wear-Tyne derby win. It is. Now, this was probably the worst game out of the lot of them. In terms of a spectacle and perspective, it was probably the worst game by some way of the games on my list. But where I think it's obviously the best, of course, beating your rivals, especially given that what Newcastle have become over the last few years. I'm not talking about the Saudi Arabia thing, although I do make a joke about that. It generally doesn't bother me as much that that they've done that. It's more that it had to be them that was taken over that annoyed me. But I am aware why some people really don't like it. But what I would say is, for me, when you watch them, and I live in a Newcastle household, by the way, so I see Newcastle stuff everywhere. So from my perspective, that win was really important for me for a couple of reasons. One, because of the shambles of the cup game a couple of years ago, because of that silly team photo thing, and that generally, to be fair to Newcastle, is a Newcastle-centric thing. That's not something they did exclusively for the derby, but the way they did it in front of the away end, that didn't sit right with me too much. And I can get why they did it. But I think it was Jason Tyndall. Is it Jason Tyndall, the name of the assistant head coach at Newcastle? And Eddie Howe I've got a lot of time for, but Tyndall I think is a wanker. I can't stand him. But yeah, so that team photo thing, yeah, obviously that didn't sit right. And I'm glad that Sunderland used that as motivation and it didn't. And that actually remind you. And even John Anderson on BBC Radio Newcastle said it, former Newcastle legend, said, that's come back to bite us. And I think and he said at the time he didn't like it, I think. Double check me, I might have misquoted there. But there was that. Secondly, given everything that they've done, and they've deserved credit for it, by the way. I don't care if you want to put an asterisk next to the Carabao Cup final win. Like, that's a trophy I'd love to see Sunderland win, so I'm not going to slag Newcastle off for it. I think winning the Carabao Cup, getting into the Champions League in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and by the way, particularly in that first season they got in the Champions League, and I watched quite a bit of them. They were actually very good, one of the best teams in the league, unfortunately, but they were one of the best teams in the league. So there is that, and I think there was that to consider, how good they've got over the last few years. 3, given the crap that Sunderland have had to watch. Remember, years of underachieving and just accepting 4th bottom in the Premier League while not trying to do anything really substantial, while you're watching clubs at the time like West Brom, Stoke, Watford, Burnley, Swansea, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth even, but I think there's countless other examples of it, that off the top of my head even, that I'm thinking of, where clubs that we should all be higher than in the pyramid, in my opinion, if ran competently. And watching them constantly finish higher than us, while we were just accepted 17th every year, was depressing to me. We were existing in the Premier League, not really competing in it. So there was that. Plus, then you had back-to-back relegations, then 4 years in League One. During the fourth of the League One years, they became the richest club in the world. Then they've done what they've done, and we've been out of the Prem for 8 years. All the frustration of that was culminated in that one moment. And look, did we deserve? I still think we deserve to beat Newcastle, and I think that, I'm not going to try and be too much of a hypocrite, because I said Sheffield United did nothing in the playoff final after the first half an hour. But the difference is, we're up against a team of that caliber, and I know Newcastle aren't playing like it, but if you go through their squad objectively, it's full of quality and talent. So for me, we deserve to win because, one, we did want it more. I'm not going to lie, and I don't blame Newcastle fans for being fuming at that performance, but mainly because you can be good in different ways, and that for me is why I think we did deserve the win. Now, look, is the own goal hilarious? Of course it is. There's a small part of me, because I think Walter Mardo seems a decent character, so I actually did feel, a small part of us did feel a little bit sorry for him when he scored the own goal. Not too much, obviously, but I did feel slightly sorry for him. But we'll wait and see. Hopefully, he has a stinker against us in the return fixture. Now, I think the return fixture is going to be quite difficult, actually. But, we'll deal with that when we come to it. Hopefully, we've got a much stronger team available then. But there's that. And I think just beating them, and I think the scenes at full time, again, was just something else. I think it was really, and I remember being out in the town for a couple of hours after the game even. I didn't even leave the Stadium of Light until probably about an hour and a half after full time. And even going into the town, everyone was buzzing. You could just see people singing in the town centre. You could see, one of my close mates sent me a video that his fiance had recorded of them both singing in the bar, because obviously they're both big Sunderland fans, singing in the bar about Wise Men Say. It was just, and that's it when we've just beaten our rivals. Imagine if we actually won something, you know, even just winning it. I mean, don't get me wrong, we won't win an FA Cup this season, I don't think, but and that's why I'd love to give the FA Cup a go. Come on, we're on 28 points, Reggie's. If you're not going to be watching this, but we're on 28 points. We need another dozen to stay up, basically. And even then, you might not even need that, but that's just to have an insurance policy to make sure that we definitely don't go down. Imagine if we actually went on a good cup run and actually had a chance of winning something. And ultimately, down the line, I'd like Sunderland to have the ambition to try and win one of the cups. Because I think we're big enough for it. Whatever the deluded lot will tell you up the road, or whatever Leeds fans try to obsess with, well, some of them, obviously, not all of them, but whatever they try to obsess with, we're big enough for it. We're massive. We're one of the biggest clubs in the country. So, yeah, it's just giving me goosebumps thinking about it. But yeah, Newcastle at home, long story short, and fair play to the 26 of you who are still watching after me waffling like that. But the 2025, I mean, that was the game that kind of encapsulated it for me. And it's more because we haven't won a game since then, obviously, but bear in mind, Brighton and Leeds, two hard fixtures, especially Brighton away, and we've had the AFCON thing coming up. So that was just so important. But even just coming out of it was just nice to beat them. Jimmy, now this is a point I actually do agree with. It feels better now because of the money in the game these days. The 17 teams in the 2 seasons of no competition from newly promoted sides. So far, our position is breathtaking. Yep, totally agree with you, mate. We've done far better than I think anyone could have realistically expected. I'm just glad the North East is getting the spotlight at long last. Yeah, I agree. And Newcastle fans would agree with us on one thing. Anyone who puts down the Tyne-Wear derby is deluded, in my opinion. It's saying it's not a proper rivalry, bollocks. It is one of the best rivalries in the country. No disputing it. Wonder what Johnson will choose. We match Palace and Bournemouth's offer. Now, for those of you who don't know, Brennan Johnson pretty much has been linked with, I think it's Bournemouth, Palace and Sunderland. Everton apparently have been linked as well. I'd have him, personally, but I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. It seems 50-50 split among the Tottenham fan base on him. So I don't know. We'll have to see. The thing I would say is, Palace are in Europe, yes, but they're going to lose Mark Gahey and Glasner in the next 6 months, I think. Both look like they're going to leave the club at the end of their contracts. So that would cause some doubts in my mind if I was a Palace fan, but or looking at Palace. But there you go. Hey, Casey, how you doing? Morning, Bowers. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night in the Stadium of Light, hopefully. And I believe you're going to Brentford as well, aren't you? So I'll see you and your mother there, you lovely people. Kimberly says, grew up watching Peter Replay and tough calls. Didn't think I'd see a better era of Kevin Phillips and Al Quinn, but this team of manager is just something so special. It just beats Reed era. No, that's fair enough. I'm interested to know what, like I said, I'm interested to know what people, I'm very interested to know what people think about, like I said, they're a better place to comment than I am. For me, it's easily the best that I've seen Sunderland, but that's only because the best I'd seen Sunderland prior to this is like 13th in the Premier League, you know. And even if we finish 13th or 12th or top 10, I think it's still probably the best given the gap between the Championship and the Premier League is as big as it's ever been. So for us to have done what we've done, I think is magical. So far, anyway. Hopefully, long may it continue. Sportscast NE, morning, mate. It'll be afternoon soon enough. I'll probably be on for another 10 minutes or so, guys. I do have to get ready to go to work, unfortunately. Yeah. John, gonna feel like a completely new squad at the end of January with new signings and return of AFCON players. It will feel like Endgame when the Avengers come back after 5 years. Funny enough, if you compared it to Infinity War, that'd be better. I'm not keen on Endgame, actually. I think Infinity War is a way better film, but I do get the point you're making. It is the portal stuff is quite epic, to be fair. Ian says, please like and subscribe. Best on the app. Mate, I promise you, I'm probably not. I think you've subscribed to Connor Bromley and All Ending Together. They're both brilliant. That's become a regular tradition to me now to watch their videos. I love they bounce off each other really well. Jam Sarni's class. Southern Echo lads are class. Gilesy and Steve. I know Steve, I don't think is on as much with Gilesy anymore, which is a shame because I think they're both brilliant. But yeah, they're class as well. Kyle Don, when he was doing videos, was mint. And there's going to be other ones I've forgotten. The South Stand, she's actually really, really good. Forgot to mention, she's breaking onto the scene. So if you're watching Ocean, really good on you. Keep it up. Jimmy, thanks, mate. Hope you do more regular live videos. It'd be great to hear your daily thoughts on club rumours, transfer rumours, etc. See, the thing is for me, I tend not to like to comment on transfer rumours because at the end of the day, they could mean absolutely nothing. Maybe I could do a weekly roundup live stream, something like that. I don't know whether fans would be interested in hearing this. For me, maybe I might do that in the January window. What do people think? Type in the chat below, or to this side of us, whichever side it is. I can't be bothered. Yeah, I think it's this side. Type if you want me to try and do more regular of these videos. Someone like a Conor McGilligan style, when obviously he does a lot of stuff for his One Leeds channel, but that's obviously because YouTube's his job, so obviously he's going to have to do it, isn't he? But yeah, maybe if more people want me to do this, then maybe I might do it, to be fair. And that does mean a lot, mate, considering I've just really slagged off your opinion on Dan Neil. But yeah, we need a creative winger. And by the way, if I sound a bit stuffy, guys, I'm in the latter stages of having a cold. I've had it over the weekend, so if you know why I was a bit stuffy in the Leeds video, that's probably why. No, not probably, will be why. Alexander, we need a creative winger, not scored or assisted in the last 13 Premier League appearances. Didn't Traore score against Bournemouth and Talby against Liverpool? I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong there, though. And KCA says, yes, we're going to Brentford too. Love that. See you tomorrow night in Brentford. Jimmy, surely if you're any young player, you'd rather play under Reggie Lebris than David Moyes. May I completely agree. He's a dour mental bastard, isn't he? God, I don't like David Moyes at all. John McKay says, Birmingham want Roberts on a permanent. We've got the option to extend his contract for another year. $6 million is the least I'd take. John, if I'm honest, mate, I think you'd be lucky to get 2 or 3. I'd take 2 or 3 million for Roberts. I think it's just that's just the. I think you'd be lucky to get half of that, to be honest. I mean, if we get 6 million, fair play. But I don't think we will get that much, unfortunately. But fair play to Roberts. I'm glad to see he's finding a new home in Birmingham and actually playing more regularly. Because he's one that I really have a lot of time and respect for what he did for the club. But he was never going to be good enough for the Prem, unfortunately. And as much as I've just said about Jimmy with Dan Neil, I actually don't think Dan Neil's good enough for the Prem. Which might say something that I've just defended Serkin when he's only had one game. But, you know, I think I could see Serkin making the step up to the Prem more than Neil given some exposure. Kay says, I saw Kyle at Brighton. He says, hope we're going to do more videos soon. I hope so. It's really good. Him and, I really hope so. Him and, what's his name? The guy who's with him, who's nuts, but it's Kel. That's it. Him and Kel are brilliant together. Kel's off his tits, man, but it's brilliant. I love watching the two of them. You do more like, do more videos and live streams when your free bowers made. We absolutely love watching you. Yeah, thank you very much. Means a lot. Jimmy, football is so evergreen in the YouTube algorithm, it also would help grow the channel. Yeah, maybe I suppose if we're really doing, maybe if we're going to, I don't know, maybe if we continue to do really well, then who knows? Maybe I'll just be fickle in that regard. Jimmy says, so more live content is a good thing. Hopefully it will be if I do it. Oliver says, I'm going to Everton in the Cup, being hard to secure away tickets as expected. Yeah, well, Everton, if you have a decent amount of points, obviously I think it was 10 loyalty points, wasn't it? I mean, I'm going to Everton as well. So I'm going to Brentford, staying in London for a couple of days, coming back on the Friday, and then going to Merseyside on the Saturday. But Here's what it is. Brentford was booked well before we got Everton in the Cup. And I figured I'll go to Everton in the Cup because the league game will actually be a lot harder to get tickets for. So I figured, go on then. It's a chance to visit the Hill Dickinson, isn't it? Let's see. Barry John. Who do you think will go out on loan in January? Neil to Borough. I think Dan Neil to Borough makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. I don't know how much Dan Neil holds about. I don't know how much Dan Neil will care about Middlesbrough in the Middlesbrough-Sunderland rivalry thing, but I think it's an interesting one. Alan Brown going now, I think, is a big thing. I think the fact that there's no, I think Alan Brown going to Borough, and even like Tony Mowbray going to Sunderland, Ashley Fletcher in the Championship, going to Sunderland. It shows that the rivalry. There is a bit of a heated. There's a more passionate game than what most a lot of the games that we have is, but it's not Newcastle. Obviously, it's never going to be. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Neil went to Borough. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Neil will go somewhere top end of the Championship. And I think there'll be a lot of clubs that would have him. John says, Roberts has never had a high value and is still in his prime. Yeah, I mean, look, I hope you're right. I hope you're right that we could get around 6 million for him. But I think you'd be fortunate to get that much, unfortunately. Jimmy, is Kel the one who sounds like Beaker the Muppets? I've never heard of them, mate, so you'll have to fill me in. But I'll go along with yes for the hell of it. Goes right. Happy New Year when it comes, Michael. Keep up the good work. Thanks very much, mate. And then obviously Acacia's going to Everton 2 Bowers. He stuck with me again. Nah, didn't worry. Didn't worry, Acacia. Hang on, let's quickly catch up on this. Are you in the lower or upper tier at Everton? I don't know, actually. I really hope I'm in the upper one because I love upper tier views. It's really class. Ian Van was it. I must have watched all of Colin Bromley, all endings propaganda videos, episodes about 50 times since the win against the Visitors. Yeah, propaganda's brilliant. That's probably my favourite bit of the whole thing. But it's just it's just how well. I mean, I suspect they probably all record it all in one go and then spread it out across a few different days. But yeah, their content's great. Really love it, and I really hope we can get more of all endings type of videos when we were in the Championship. Even if it's on his Patreon. Which, by the way, you said you were going to do a video of the Visitors game, and you haven't, mate. What's going on? But right, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there because I will have to get ready for work pretty much. But thanks to everyone who has commented and who has watched. Like I said, it's been a mental 2025, and hopefully 2026 proves to be as good as this year. Although it's going to be quite hard to top. I think if it's as good as this year, we get into European football. I think, which is something else. Which, by the way, I don't expect. I'd be delighted with top half. To be honest. Alan Garner says, Daniel is a good Championship player, but I think that's his level. Never stood out in any game I saw last season. There was a couple of games I thought he did stand out in, but I don't think he's any better than Championship. Which isn't a bad thing, by the way. It's not a slag off on him. It's more the Prem is just a different beast now, isn't it? But yeah, guys, thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone who's watched, including Jimmy says, cheers for the stream, Michael. As ever, always enjoy always great content, respect your views. No, that's fine. Respect yours, mate. That's totally fair enough. People can respect each other's opinions without being dickheads about it. So, but thanks to everyone who has watched, guys. And let's hopefully enjoy Man City tomorrow. Good thing is when Semenyo goes there, if he does go there, we'll have played City twice, unless we play them in the FA Cup this season, but we shall see. Take care, you lovely lot. And thanks again to everyone who has watched. Have a great New Year. Hope you all had a great Christmas as well, by the way, with your loved ones. Life's too short. Enjoy the moments when they come. And yeah, stay safe, everyone. And as always, away the lads.